Hey everyone, it's John Barrett at Level Up Your Leadership, where I'm going to help you with visual leadership lessons. I want to talk about the successful mind. Success always starts in here. It's an inside job that works its way outside because you can't take people where you've never been. You can't give what you don't have. You can never output what you haven't input in the first place. So success always starts in here. And this is vital for us to understand. Because if we're going to reach our potential, if we're going to maximize our leadership ability, then we got to understand it starts inside of us. And if we're going to help others reach their maximum potential, we got to help them develop their mindset. So in order to do this, we have to understand some truths about the successful mind. First thought is this: you don't go to your potential as though it's waiting for you somewhere. You don't go to your potential, you grow to your potential. And it's that process of growing and developing yourself on the inside that allows you to reach your potential. You're never going to wake up one day and just say, I've arrived at my potential. I'm leading at my maximum capacity. I've got success all around me. You don't just wake up and get better. And I think there's a lot of people that are just hoping that they're going to get better in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Surely I'll be better off. No. You don't go to your potential. You grow into it. Just a few years ago, our little guy, it was so funny. He just turned 6 years old. And I said, buddy, it's so awesome. You're 6 years old. Aren't you so excited? And he was super excited. He's like, yeah, this is amazing. It's my birthday. And I looked at him and I said, I can't believe you're 6. Great job. You're getting so big. And he looked at me kind of perplexed and he goes, Dad? I said, yeah. He said, I still feel like I'm 5. And I was like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but you're 6. Like you magically turned that number. And I thought that was so profound about what he said. Because I think there's a lot of people, a lot of us, we don't realize that we've got to grow to our potential. We just think we're going to wake up. Kind of like he said, well, I don't feel like I'm 6. I feel like I'm 5. And yet he's growing. He's getting better. So we've got to understand that we grow to our potential. Well, how do we do that? Well, we've got to understand how we're designed. If we're going to maximize our growth as a leader and we're going to help others maximize their growth, we've got to understand how we're designed. And I want you to think about this idea of the stick man is what it's called. Dr. Thurman Fleet was famous for putting this together, and Dr. Maltz was incredible, the psycho-cybernetics. And what I want to share with you is just this idea of how the mind works. How does growth work? Because if we don't understand it, how do we ever lean into it? How do we ever maximize it? If you don't know what's under the hood, how do you fix it? How do you make it better? So I want to kind of dig into what's under the hood in our mind, what's going on. As you know, we have all these kind of antennae in our life, the different senses that we have, where we pick up signals all the time from things that we're experiencing, things that we hear, things that we read, things that we go through, conversations, people. We're always picking up signals. And what happens in our mind is your mind is broken up into 2 parts. Obviously, you've got your conscious mind right here, and then you've got your subconscious mind down below, the subconscious mind that's down below. And so what happens is you pick up a signal. For example, right now, I'm talking, and you're listening to my voice. I'm talking, and there's a thought. There's an idea coming into your mind right now. You're thinking about this. Now, what's fascinating about this is that once you get a thought in your mind consciously, you think about it, you dwell upon it, you accept that thought, you kind of look at it and experience it. What your mind is made up of is what I call this cognitive library. And your subconscious is like a library, and it's got millions of bookshelves in this library that are just all throughout this library of your mind. And every time that you've got a thought that you hear, read, see, experience, whatever it is, you take that thought and your mind will subconsciously categorize that. It's like a book. You pick up a thought and you file it away over here. So you've got all these books on the bookshelves, and all these different bookshelves have different categories. And I'll prove it to you just real quick in real time. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about Africa. Just think about Africa. Now tell me what comes to mind right now. Literally just spit out 2 or 3, 4 things about Africa. All right, you got them? Now, what happened is you probably started picturing some things about Africa. Maybe you thought about some of the animals or the natives or the weather, or how hot it was, or a safari, or maybe the shape of the continent or whatever it was. You began to think about Africa. Now, 30 seconds ago, you were not thinking about Africa. It wasn't in your conscious mind at all. You weren't thinking about it at all. But I said, hey, think about Africa. What did your mind do? You said, okay, Africa. You went to your library that is labeled Africa that you filed away throughout all your years of experiences and learning, maybe movies, or maybe you've been there and that. And you started pulling off books from the bookshelf. And you started saying, oh, yeah, the natives. Oh, yeah, these animals. Oh, yeah, safari. Oh, the weather and the shape of it. You were pulling off bookshelves of information that you've stored over the years wherever you pick that up. Maybe in your education, maybe a movie, maybe an experience, whatever it is. For me, we've got some friends that were missionaries in Africa. I think of them because I have a relationship with them, and they are filed away in my mind, so I'm able to think about them really quick. Now, if I said, think about Disney World, then go. What would you say about Disney World? Usually when I do this with live audiences, I'm here and I say, think about Disney. Well, nobody was thinking about Disney 30 seconds ago. You weren't. But everybody then thinks of that thought. They go to their Disney library and they start pulling off books from that bookshelf. They think about, oh, Mickey Mouse, oh, Epcot, oh, the food, oh, the rides, my bank account draining, right? Whatever it is. I have all kinds of things that people shout out when I do this with live audiences. Now, years ago, when we took our daughters to Disney World, we surprised them. And they were really little at the time. And so we did this, kind of thing on a chalkboard like Hangman, and we had them guess the words, and it spelled, we're going to Disney. And our oldest daughter at the time, she was super excited. She's like, what? This is amazing. Now, our youngest daughter, she was only about 3 at the time. She didn't really have a library of Disney. I mean, she knew that there were some movies maybe about, Disney characters and that, but she didn't know about Disney World. So she didn't know to get excited. She just saw her sister getting really excited about Disney World, but she had no books to pull off. She had no reference for it. So it didn't really elicit any response from her. She didn't know what to do. So we had to begin to tell her about Disney, and she began to file things away. We showed her pictures and look what we're going to be doing. And she was like, wow, this is awesome. Now, I say this because in the context of leadership and success, here's what happens. When you've got conflict that's going on between two people, and there is an issue that is happening, when conflict happens between you and somebody else, or maybe somebody on your team or whatever it is, and you experience that conflict, guess what your mind's going to do? You're going to go to that bookshelf of conflict. And you're either going to pull out really good books of information and things that you've learned how to deal with conflict, or there is going to be an empty shelf. And you're not going to know how to deal with conflict. And it's going to make you nervous. It's going to make you scared. In fact, when there's nothing on the bookshelf, you know what happens? Fear. Our confidence goes down. And so what happens is in our mind, where it all starts, success, when there's conflict, for example, and you've not learned how to deal with it, you haven't exposed yourself to tools and leadership resources and begin to teach frameworks about doing this and dealing with conflict. If you don't have that, you go to a blank library. And guess what happens physically with your body? Because it all starts in here. Your mind goes, I don't know what to do. Danger, danger, danger. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to deal with this. This is uncomfortable. So what happens is that thought begins to kind of fill up your physical body. And literally your body will release cortisol, the stress hormone. And you'll begin to secrete that cortisol within your body, and it'll be on the rise. And guess what happens? That fear, that stress begins to actually physically manifest in your body. And so you act on that. You act on that. So you might get shaky, or you might fumble through your words, or you might kind of clam up and kind of get sweaty and your stomach's turning, and you're acting on it. And guess what happens? You get a result from that. Maybe not a great result because you didn't know how to deal with it. And stress and cortisol was on the rise. You acted out on that. So meaning that you fumbled through it and you weren't even sure what to say. You couldn't even think straight. Your stomach was turning. Your voice was shaky. And you were thinking about that. And the result that you got probably wasn't great. And guess what happens? It reinforces our learning. So if we're not careful, we'll say, oh, that was a bad experience. And then we'll file that away in conflict and say, never do that again. Avoid that at all costs. And so now when conflict happens, what do? We go to that bookshelf and we go, oh, danger, avoid this, get away from it, run from it, hide from it. And we don't create a great team, and we don't have great leadership because we're not willing to have those conversations when there's conflict. And so you get the point. We act on that and our results just reinforce. Now, let me flip this though. What happens when you actually have a library of knowing how to deal with this? through experiences and resources and training and coaching, all the things that you've done. When conflict happens and you have that in your conscious mind and you immediately go to your subconscious mind and you've got tools, you've got the conflict compass, which is a workshop we teach to teams where we talk about done, did, do, the bold, humble rule, 24-hour rule. These are all tools that we teach about conflict resolution. Now, you don't know what those are probably because you haven't even experienced those yet. So you don't have those tools, so you don't know what to do. But if you've got tools, then all of a sudden you'll go, okay, I know how to deal with this. I know that I need to be calm. I've experienced this. I know some techniques. I know some strategies on how to navigate and talk through this. When you do that, guess what's going to happen? Your body is going to be filled up with confidence. You have those neurochemicals that are going to help you be relaxed. They're going to help you be calm and collected, be confident in the moment. And then you're going to act on that confidence. And you're going to say, hold on, time out. Let's back up. We need to be more of a journalist, not a novelist in this situation. So let's talk about that. And when you do that, you're going to get a better result. And guess what happens? It just reinforces your learning. Now, when conflict happens again, you know, because you've got experience, you've got tools, you know how to move forward with confidence. You see, success always starts in here. So I want to ask you, what are you doing to grow yourself? What are you doing to begin to fill your mind with resources so that you can fill your cognitive library so that you can be the best you can be? What are you doing to teach your team and to train your team? Are you giving them tools, resources, coaching, and books, if you will, not physically, although that would be a good idea? Are you giving them books of experiences and information on how we're going to deal with things so that when they arise and we experience them, we know what to do so that we can move forward in confidence and get a great result? The successful mind, it all starts right here. Listen, I would love to help you out in any way that I can. We go into teams and we work with teams and we help them get exposed to resources about every kind of topic you can think of so they can fill their bookshelves cognitively so they know what to do in the moment. Go check out the Leader Guide where you can get group questions around this and talk about what you're doing as a team to fill that cognitive library, what you're doing, some self-reflection questions. Go to johnbarrettleadership.com.
Reach out to us today so we can help take you and your team to the next level.